We're live for Pro Championship Wrestling News. Year 1, Issue 30, Part 3. Yay! We're finally finishing. It took me a month to get to 2 weeks of my federation done. Today we'll look at the last Legends Club for this issue. It's going to be the Polynesian Wrestling Club. Then we have some NWA action, some Eastern Alliance for Shotgun Wrestling, and finally we'll end up with some Ring of Honor wrestling. So let's go to the Polynesian Sports Pavilion. And it was a wild night as Zack Sabre Jr. started things off by defeating Alpha Jr. with the Kimura. The Great Muta defeats Tiger Mask with a moonsault. Then after the match, Muta uses his mist to blind Tiger Mask. Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, and Scott Norton defeated the team of Mr. Fuji, Mr. Saito, and Don Morocco. Scott Norton hits the power bomb to pin Saito for the win. Bull Nakano defeated Reggie Bennett by disqualification after Reggie slams Bull through a table. Ricky Dozen defeats the Destroyer with thunderous chops. And in the main event, as evidently the feud continues, Ricky Dozen says there isn't a feud, this is just saying who's the better man. Antonio Inoki defeated Giant Baba by disqualification when Giant Baba pinned Inoki through another table and was disqualified for it. All right, so that will wrap up the Legends Club. Let's go to National City Wrestling and the NWA. The National Wrestling Alliance. Abraham Lincoln defeats Keith Steinborn with a hammerlock. Don Curtis defeats Mike Jackson with the sleeper. Gene and Lars Anderson defeat Mr. Wrestling 1 and Mr. Wrestling 2. The Wrestlings got fed up with the double teaming, so they double teamed themselves and got disqualified. Just goes to show that they weren't as good as the Andersons were about fighting dirty. Frank Gotch defeats Strangler Lewis with the Gotch toe hold. Mr. Wrestling number 3 defeats Harley Race with the ankle lock. The Midnight Express and Jim Cornette defeat Dan Severn, Ken Shamrock, and Bobo Brazil. Shamrock is counted out when Jim Cornette whacks him in the head with the tennis racket. I'm sure we have not seen the last about that, but an upset Jim Cornette said this would be the last time you would ever see him in a wrestling ring as a wrestler. And then the World Junior Heavyweight Championship is back on the line. Gorgeous George retains it against William Muldoon. He managed to roll Muldoon up in a small package while pulling the tights and got the 1, 2, 3. Moving down to Georgia. For those of you that go to Georgia and pick up the Souvenir Wrestling, disc, this is what you would see. The show opens with a commercial for the Acme Security Company. That is Mr. Hughes, Big Bubba, Ron Simmons, Butch Reed, and rumor has it there will be another member joining Acme Security. So in the first one, Hugh Morris takes on Frogman LeBlanc to start the night off. Hugh Morris hits the spine buster to pin the Frogman. Acme Security, Mr. Hughes and Ron Simmons defeat the Mulkey Brothers. Ron Simmons hits the power slam to pin Bill Mulkey. The Corps sends the Sergeant Slaughter against Boris Zukov. Zukov pins Slaughter. Zukov gets the disqualification as Don Carnoodle gets involved. And things kind of break down from there. It's time for a commercial break, and Sergeant Slaughter is recruiting for the Slaughter Brigade. Hugh Morris is watching in the back and shows an interest in joining it. The Texas Outlaws, Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch defeat Bob Orton Sr. and Bob Orton Jr. when Dick Murdoch hits the brain buster on Jr. Wahoo McDaniel hits the vertical suplex to pin Disco Inferno. Dr. Death, Steve Williams, survives a beatdown and comes back to defeat Ernie Ladd with the Oklahoma Stampede. Then in a non-title match, world champion Lou Thesz defeats Dick Slater with the Greco-Roman backdrop. Moving to the Eastern Alliance, we go to Shotgun Wrestling. AJ Styles defeats the progressive liberal Daniel Richards, seconded by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. AOC throws a fist, slamming her notebook against the ring and swearing to challenge the ruling of the ref and how tired she is of being discriminated against because she's against Trump. Trump comes out, offers her a deal. He will sell the Eastern Alliance and go away if she gets in the ring and beats an opponent of his choosing. If she loses, she will have to go away. AOC looks at Richards in shock and fear when he accepts the challenge. He tells her not to worry. Sarah Del Rey defeats Bayley with the cross arm breaker. Bruno Sammartino defeats Angelo Poffo with the backbreaker. Hot Seat with Bill Apter comes on next. He interviews Hulk Hogan. Hulk talks about what he's meant to the wrestling business and how wrestling in WWE was all because of him. And now that he's back, he feels he's deserving a title shot at Bob Backlund for the Eastern Alliance Championship. The Donald comes out, tells Hulk Hogan that only winners gets title shots, and he didn't win last week. But he will give him a shot. If he wins, he will consider him for a title shot. Then the match everyone's been waiting for, the Heenan family, King Kong Bundy and Kurt Hennig, seconded by Bobby the Brain Heenan versus Hillbilly Jim and Cousin Luke, seconded by Gorilla Monsoon. Now Bobby Heenan does get involved, and Gorilla Monsoon runs him back, but in the end, it's King Kong Bundy with the Atlantic City Avalanche on Cousin Luke. For the 3 count, then he demands a 5 count, and Cousin Luke is counted out twice. And that's all the action from the Eastern Alliance. Let's go down to the Independents and Ring of Honor. Tommaso Ciampa and El Generico start the night off with a handshake. Generico hits the Spike Brainbuster to pin Ciampa. Negro Ciampa refuses to shake hands with Generico and leaves to the jeers of the fans. Unbreakable Michael Elgin comes in the second match of the night to face the House of Truth, Roderick Strong. The two adhere to the code. Roderick Strong wins on a countout as Michael Elgin is unable to get back to the ring after being driven into the steel post. Strong and Martini leave the ring rather quickly. There is no handshake as these two attack each other. Kelly Klein and Sumi Sasaki tear into each other. Kelly nearly has the win several times with the end of the match, but Sumi somehow survives and uses the Smash Mouth to beat Kelly. Kelly and Sumi do shake hands afterwards. The Young Bucks step into the ring to face the world's greatest tag team. The two teams adhere to the code. Charlie Haas is disqualified for smashing Nick Jackson with a chair. Needless to say, there was no handshake at the end of that one. Rhino takes on Mike Mondo. They absorb the curve. They observe the code. And Rhino defeats Mike Mondo with a running power slam. Mike gets angry, refuses to shake hands, and walks off. Jay Lethal defeats Michael Bennett, seconded by Maria, with a perfect crossbody block. Then the American Wolves and the Briscoe brothers face off. Davey Richards smashes Mark Briscoe with a chair and is disqualified. Now let's take a look at where we stand on the champions. Let's look at the Legends Club first. The main champions of the Legend Club, world champion is Nick Bockwinkel. The American champion is Tommy Rich. International champion is Conan. The junior heavyweight champion is Johnny Saint. World tag team champions are the Kangaroos. American tag champions are the Dudley Boys. International champions is vacant right now. Texas Tough Wrestling Club. Lone Star champion is Johnny Valentine. The Lone Star tag team champions are the Spoiler and Akuma the Ninja, managed by Gary Hart. Memphis Wrestling and Ozark Wrestling under the title of Southern Wrestling. The Southern champion is Tommy Rich. And the Armstrongs are the tag champions. AWA World Champion. The AWA Championship is vacant due to Bockwinkel becoming champion, and the tag team champions are the Road Warriors.